evening from the European Parliament here in Strasbourg. Now, this was the week Brexit was supposed to happen. Instead, it looks more unpredictable than ever. All that and more in case you missed it.
We are continuing to work to ensure that we can deliver Brexit for the British people and guarantee that we deliver Brexit for the British people. We have a deal which cancels our EU membership fee, which stops the EU making our laws, which gives us our own immigration policy, ends the common agricultural policy for good, ends the common fisheries policy for good. Other options don't do that. Other options would lead to delay, to uncertainty and risk never delivering Brexit.
Clearly, Theresa May is married to her version of the deal.
I think it's becoming clear now that if the deal isn't passed, there's going to be a long extension, there's going to be European elections, and ultimately it probably means there isn't going to, well, either the UK might not leave or they're certainly not going to leave without a deal.
It does feel, Sophie, from watching this from the outside, it does feel that she is in a corner, or do you think she still has the power? Does she even have the choice, or has she completely lost control of Brexit? What is her position here now? How precarious is it, essentially?
You say control. I mean, I'm watching this and I can't help thinking, I'm increasingly curious exactly what the campaign slogan, taking back control, was referring to, because there doesn't seem to be any control anymore. I cannot tell the British people and the British politicians what they want. That's for them to choose. I cannot tell them, whether they think Mrs. May is the best leader to solve the situation or not. It's not up to us. We just have to wait what the British decide to do. But what is clear to me is that we need certainty very, very quickly for businesses and for citizens, because people are waiting. They don't know what will happen. Will there be a Brexit in 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 years? Will there be no Brexit at all? What's going to happen? We see businesses who've been preparing, and for big multinationals it may not be a problem, but if you have a small and medium-sized company, people have been stockpiling things that they cannot keep forever. So we need certainty, we need a decision.
All right, so do you think she has lost control? What about what you think?
I don't think she has lost control. I mean, the problem has always been trying to get that deal through.
Her political career is on the line now. You don't think she's lost control?
Not really. I mean, this is the most difficult issue Britain has faced in post-war politics. She doesn't have a majority in Parliament anyway. Given those two huge sort of historical facts, it's very difficult to see any path through. I don't think anyone could necessarily get the path through. But there is movement towards the deal getting through. The problem is we have a deadline. We have a deadline of the end of the week for the deal to get through, and 12th of April to have an extension if we're going to have an extension. And that's the real challenge.
Want to say something to what he's...
No, but the point is that, if you take a step back, it's very interesting in the short term to speculate about the political fate of Mrs. May, but quite honestly, that is not the issue here. The issue is that we see, for example, in the UK, but not exclusively in the UK, a political system which is clearly not, it's a two-party system, which is not designed for tackling this kind of issues. We see in the United States, we've seen a couple of government shutdowns in recent years because there were two big parties, but we also see in the Council of the European Union a growing number of deadlocks because, there's this trench politics, and we, in this case, for example, if you'll allow me, okay. They're two big parties who should be able together to take responsibility and build consensus and compromise, because that's what needs to happen here. They need to find a compromise, and not just because there has to be a majority in Parliament, but whatever happens. If there is a Brexit, when there is a Brexit, if there's no Brexit, the British people will still have to continue, and you cannot have a completely divided population. Anyone will have to deal with that, even if there were to be a second referendum.
If anyone were to deal with all of this, and how important is it that Theresa May stays as a figurehead for the sake of continuity? Because you were talking about how this impacts small businesses, it said the chaos of it. What about the continuity? How important is it that she, as a symbol or a figurehead of the negotiations that already happened, is important?
This is not about one person. It's not about, that's nice for the tabloids maybe to speculate about her political future. I don't think that is the biggest issue here. The issue here is that we go back to a stable situation, that people know what they can expect, people in the UK, people in the European Union, and it is a joint responsibility. It's not just up to one person.
So party politics aside, you're pretty much saying?
Well, I think there are bigger issues here than just the political fate of Mrs. May.
Yeah, and what do you think? Party politics taking at the heart of it? I mean, that's a criticism coming from Europe, from the EU, from the rest of the 27 countries, saying, well, actually, they're playing local, domestic politics to their audience, to the MPs, rather than thinking of the common good. Is Is that how you see
Well,
it?
all politics is local. I mean, it doesn't matter at what level you do in politics,
Sure,
it
but
always goes to the local
in this case,
level.
it is the fate and future of a bloc.
Yeah, but the difficulty is the referendum campaign was leave or remain. So we chose to leave. No one defined what that leave will be. And I think that's the challenge now is everyone in Parliament is trying to define what the leave is. We're actually 2 days away from when the UK would have left the EU, and we're still trying to define what leave means. And I think that's actually the source of the problem. The voting system and our political system in the UK is built on 2 major parties. It's built on getting a majority, and then you're able to push through whatever you want. The culture is very different from the political culture in Europe. When you have a hung parliament, you always have these sort of divisive times, and it's just coincided with the most difficult issue we've ever tried to solve.
All right, well, we did try to gauge what other MEPs were saying about what is happening in the UK and Theresa May's future. Darren McCaffrey, our political editor, he spoke with some of them today. Darren, what is the mood like here in Strasbourg?
Brexit is still very much dominating proceedings here in Strasbourg. Though it must be said, I think there is somewhat relief that MPs have taken over this process in Westminster. Incredible frustration with Theresa May, and a sign, I think, from MEPs, Tessa, that they just simply do not no longer trust her to be able to deliver on Brexit, on her deal, or indeed in any really political decision-making in London. So a wide range of views, certainly when I spoke to MEPs earlier on today, including, it must be said, a sense that many of them just want this subject of Brexit to go away.
Yeah, she should. If she achieves her objective, her goal, to solve the problem, it would be good that she resigns.
I think she's been a disaster. I think certainly the worst Prime Minister since Eden. I think she needs to go. I don't think her heart's been in it from the beginning. I don't think she's really wanted Brexit. And as you know, if you do something half-hearted, you never really do it properly.
Frankly, I think it's a bit of a distraction to focus on the Prime Minister's role now. It's more important that there's a common position on what the UK can bring to Brussels.
This we must leave to the British. She was elected by them and they must decide what to do about her. Generally, we are worried about what's going on with Britain.
The British people voted to leave. We should be leaving on Friday, and I am deeply ashamed that it at present appears that we're not actually leaving on Friday.
Do you think Theresa May should resign if it helps get Brexit through Parliament?
Frankly, I couldn't care less.
Why not?
Well, it is the British people who have to make up their mind, and I'm really tired of thinking about what should help and what not.
I couldn't care less, fed up, bored. I think that is a sentiment that is shared not just by that German MEP, but many, many here in Strasbourg and beyond. But tonight, Theresa May is speaking to a packed room in the House of Commons, trying to save her deal and indeed her premiership. Be in no doubt, though, Tessa, that people here in Strasbourg, in Brussels and in European capitals are already contemplating and talking about Britain post-May and who they may well have to end up dealing with beyond the May administration, maybe potentially in just a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks for that, Darren. And now joining us to discuss this is Christopher Fjellner, Swedish MEP who sits with the European People's Party group here in the Parliament. We saw that German MP Jens Geier, actually, he was saying that, well, he's tired of it. Is bored of it. He couldn't care less. Is this the general feeling that you're getting about what's happening with Brexit?
No, you know, I'm still sad that everything seems to happen. But whether Theresa May will stay or not, okay, it's not up for me to say, as Jens pointed out. But since you invited me, I must say that I'm pretty amazed about the stamina that she's showing. You know, how much beating can a single person take in politics? But fundamentally, it ain't about May. It's about what does Britain want?
Yeah. So, okay, what does the UK want? What are we going to see if you were to have a crystal ball in front of you?
Well, I would like the PM's deal to go through. I mean, to be honest, and if that's not possible, probably the best way out of this is to maybe park in a sort of EFTA, Norway type of situation for a period of time and then try and work out the relationship going from there. But that doesn't please a lot of people because then you can't impose restrictions on freedom of movement, for example. And that's, I think, the real challenge.
What I worry about is the fact that nothing might go through. Actually, we might still be as confused, or that actually that the British Parliament acts as my children does when they're writing their wish list for birthday. We want a unicorn, you know, I think they wrote top, that they actually ask for things that just can't be delivered. We want no customs union, we don't want the internal market, but we still don't want a border between England, Britain and Northern Ireland. And if anything like that goes through, it doesn't help anything. But one thing that I'm worried about when it comes specifically to Theresa May is that she might go for a no-deal Brexit.
Firstly, not all the Conservative Party back it,
no.
I can assure you of that. And secondly, she has no backing in Parliament for that. Now, even though Parliament can't stop it, I think it's a very big move to go for no deal and all the implications that come from that if you haven't got political backing.
So, Dan, why do you think someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg is moving closer to supporting Theresa May, even if nothing has substantially changed in her deal? What are they afraid of?
I think they fear that Brexit itself is under threat now. And actually, if the deal doesn't go through, in the end, this is a process that will lead to the UK not leaving at all.
But this is a scenario that the EU is certainly not afraid of.
No, let's talk. Okay, a little bit frustrated maybe that this limbo is going on, but I don't want Britain to leave. So in a sense, I'd like you to come back next term as well. And if that would be the outcome of this, nobody would be happier than I would. But the problem is, of course, that Britain keeps to ask for the impossible. And or extensions beyond the parliamentary elections, but no election in Britain. You know that there's all these strange.
As an outsider watching British politics, is there anyone when you're looking at the politicians that you think could possibly lead this negotiation much better than Theresa May? You're saying, yeah, she's doing a great job taking a beating, but is there someone else who could probably do a better job?
As long as Britain hasn't decided
to not ask for a unicorn, as you say, because
no,
this is. The uncertainty is what is bringing all this up.
I've done trade policy for 15 years here in the European Parliament or in this House, and I've learned two things. If you're going to succeed in something, you need a clear mandate and you need broad political backing. Then you can deliver almost anything.
Which she...
The problem is that she doesn't
have.
And as long as... It wouldn't matter if you change her for someone else to do it. As long as you don't have the mandate and not have the political backing, then of course you can't deliver anything. So the focus that sadly becomes on Theresa May kind of hides the bigger picture. Agree on something, a compromise, but on something. And I think that if you're going to deliver on Brexit, Theresa May's deal is probably not only the best around, it's probably the only one around.
All right, Dan, just a quick answer from you. Do you think she will step down? Yes or no?
I don't think she will, no.
You think she'll hold her ground?
Yeah, she's shown consistently that she's held her ground and she's survived when people have written her off, and I think she'll do the same again.
Let's go to our correspondent, Vincent McAviney, who is in London for us. Vincent, can you bring us up to date? What is happening?
Well, the Prime Minister arrived late, Tessa, to that meeting. She went in around 8 past the hour. It was apparently that packed that some MPs couldn't get in, and there was banging on the desks when the Prime Minister arrived. Now, in the last few minutes, it's being reported that she said to MPs that she will hand over the leadership once Brexit is delivered. When pressed on this, she said she will not remain in post for the next phase of the negotiations. And one MP, James Cartledge, says her clear implication was that she would go once the withdrawal agreement was passed. So once she has that third meaningful vote and the withdrawal agreement is passed, the Prime Minister seems to be signalling that she will go and she won't go on to the next stage of the negotiations. So that would therefore get some Brexiteer MPs on side to do that third vote. But it was also, as predicted in tonight's Evening Standard newspaper, edited by the former Chancellor George Osborne, starts the race for a successor to the Prime Minister. Michael Gove there, one person very prominently on the front page, Boris Johnson, Amber Rudd as well. One MP said, Nigel Evans, the chair of the 1922 committee, there would be more runners and riders than the Grand National. So Theresa May, it sounds like, has just started the firing gun on a fresh leadership election if she manages to get her withdrawal agreement through the House of Commons.
The chaos in Westminster has not gone unnoticed by MEPs here in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Let's take a look.
Theresa May might be tempted to play scorched earth policy and say, well, whatever the Parliament does, if it has a positive majority for something I don't like, I will not do it. And there's a danger there, because, well, if there's one lesson that we have learned from Theresa May's attitude, is her inability to factor in what others think.
I'm very pleased that yesterday evening an amendment, the so-called Letwin amendment, has been adopted, because that means that it is possible now to work in Britain towards a cross-party proposal, a cross-party alliance that could upgrade fundamentally the political declaration.
And Guy Verhofstadt there, whom you just saw, is the Brexit coordinator for the European Parliament. And after that news conference, I tracked him down to try and find a little more about where Brexit goes from here. Have a listen.
It's not to me to decide on the direction of the UK. Well, so what we hope now is that after the approval of the Letwin Amendment, there will be a cross-party cooperation and there will be a cross-party majority for a close relationship between the EU and UK. And we can put that their proposal easily, I think, if it is a good proposal naturally, into the political declaration and even upgrade these political declarations.
You mentioned the people who were marching. Should there be a second referendum?
It's not to us to decide on a second referendum. It's not to us. That's not our competence. Our competence is to have an orderly withdrawal, and with the approval of the Letwin Amendment, there is now a possibility, I hope, for a cross-party cooperation, a cross-party majority in favor of something. Because until now, as you know, the British Parliament was always against something, against the deal, against no deal, against the second referendum, and so on. So I hope now to hear from the House of Commons in the coming days, at the latest next week, what their proposal is in favor of something, in favor of what type of relationship. And that's what we're expecting. We will not interfere in the discussions. We didn't do it for more than 2 years concerning deal, no deal, second referendum, no second referendum, and so on. That is the competence of the House of Commons. That is not our competence.
Should Theresa May step down?
That's also not our competence.
You have to say so. Who would hurt more with a no deal? You've always been saying in Parliament, you're very passionately saying that the EU should have done more. Do you still think that?
Oh yes, I mean, by saying enough is enough and constantly bashing London, ignoring the own responsibility for Brexit by a lot of people here in Brussels and Strasbourg, I think they are forgiving a chance, because I have been a couple of times in London and met a lot of Brexiteers and Remainers. And I must say I have met some Remainers who said they have become Brexiteers because the way Barnier, Juncker and Verhofstadt have been treating and have been bashing London all over. You just saw an example of an example of Lamberts. I mean, how who is he that he can blast the Prime Minister of Britain? No. So you get in Britain a counter reaction to this arrogance.
But I think that's fundamentally wrong. Of course, you can find a lot of Boris Johnsons here and a lot of going for Verhofstadts in London, so to say, to be diplomatic. But the overall, absolutely majority here would love United Kingdom and the British people to stay in Europe.
Yes, I agree.
But I think this is the important message. And then you have some people who are demonizing each other. I mean, that has been a part of the Brexit campaign as well. Let's look at the things as they really are now. Now there is an agreement. There is an opportunity to make a choice, and this is obviously the problem for the governments. You have a very asymmetric situation. I would like the British Parliament to get into power now, and then discuss, is there reason now to have a second referendum? And from a democratic point of view, certainly.
British Parliament in power, would that mean Theresa May on the sidelines?
I think that
is that her future now?
Has been a part of the process for a long time, as I see it.
A part of the process?
No, she has been at the sideline because normally Prime Minister do have some sort of majority in the Parliament.
Do you want to see her stepping down?
I don't have any perspectives on that. That is up to the British Conservatives and the British Parliament. But obviously there is a problem of steering the country.
Well, I agree that most of the people in this Parliament want Britain to stay in the European Union, no question. But I'm not meeting many people who have done anything about it. I have myself come up with an initiative which I presented here, and I offer Britain a new deal so they could stay. I can quite frankly see no difference in this London bashing between Farage and Verhofstadt. They are both aiming always at London.
What about Theresa May bashing, if you will?
Well, I don't blame her and bash her.
We heard from
think
Philippe Lamberts today.
we should send signals, active signals, to Britain that we love them. And we should admit that the economic problems are not only faced by Britain, they are faced by Germany and Sweden and many other countries as well. It is in our interest for them to stay. It is not always good just to bash London. We have to start to ask ourselves the question,
but all right,
what can we do to help the Remainers in Britain?
But you're talking about, you brought this up as well, the kind of leadership that Theresa May has, but you said it was part of the process that she was being sidelined today. We heard from Philippe Lamberts, who said that she was devoid of any basic skill of being a leader. Do you agree with that?
No,
but we can't go.
I think it's terrible.
Seeing individuals representing small groups here. But the important thing that I would like to say to the British people: we love you and we need you, and we would like to see to that we can stay on together because we do need each other. And then, having said that, of course there will be some Boris Johnsons here and there, and Farage here and there, Verhofstadt here and there. But let's talk about the big bulk of people who are serious.
So when you talk about you don't like the bashing, do you think Philippe Lamberts went too far?
Yes, I think this is, but it is more or less typical. My point is that no one here really helps the Remainers in Britain. And nobody helps the Brexiteers to change their mind by saving their face. For instance, one idea which we had is, look, many more countries now want some more responsibility and autonomy over their own immigration.
Right.
If we had offered that to Britain at the Cameron time, the Brexit wouldn't have happened.
Just a very quick last question to you, Gunnar. The EU, the Commission had said that the no deal preparations, they're done. The EU is ready. So a no deal wouldn't hurt. You say you want the UK to stay, but a no deal, the EU is ready. That's fine then.
A no deal would be a train crash, very serious for United Kingdom, but also for us. For all of us and for Europe. I think the most happy guy would be Mr. Putin about that. So that should be avoided at any price.
And Mr. Trump, perhaps.
You cannot betray the 6 million people who signed the petition to revoke Article 50, the 1 million people who marched for a people's vote, or the increasing majority of people who want to remain in the European Union. They may feel that they are not sufficiently represented by the UK Parliament, but they must feel that they are represented by you in this chamber, because they are European.
If the situation remains to be blocked, then there is only one chance. Ask the people. Ask the people. Yes, I know why you shy away from that, because you are afraid of everything what happens in London streets. Afraid to death because you can't stand it anymore. This will be the solution, and the British people will tell you where to go.
The EU still seems to continue pursuing the same policy of deterrence, which, roughly speaking, consists of two elements. First, to punish the United Kingdom by a no deal, so that no one in the future would dare to follow their footsteps. And secondly, to humiliate the United Kingdom.
All right, Nigel, I'll ask you this first. You've said it in the past on the show, leave is leave, and that's it. But Donald Tusk clearly wearing his heart on his sleeve, if you say so, his feelings.
Yes.
He doesn't want the UK to.
Yes, there was lots of emotion there, yes.
There is a lot of emotion.
A lot of emotion, but somewhat deluded. He talks about 1 million people marching. Well, it wasn't. It was 1/3 of a million. But still a lot of people, I'll grant you.
Organisers did say it was
a
million.
He talks about a petition signed by people from all over the world. What he doesn't talk about is the 17.4 million who voted Brexit in the referendum. But more importantly, what nobody in that parliament today referenced was what has happened over the last 3 weeks in the opinion polls in the United Kingdom. We've seen a dramatic shift towards leaving with no deal. And the reason is people have just had enough of this Brexit agony going on, and they want a conclusion. And you're now looking at leads of 15% plus for leaving the European Union.
Well, I think it depends on what survey you're looking at. Because there's what UK thinks who say that 54% I think want to remain now versus 46% back then.
That is hugely out of date. If you look at what's happened in the last 3 weeks, there's been a massive shift on this, and it's as if There is a belief in this European Parliament that the UK voters now want to remain. They don't.
All right, we will know if we ask. Udo Bullman said, "Ask the people." All right, I will ask you about what we heard from the Parliament there. Are our MEPs, is the EU, is Donald Tusk overstepping the line and sort of interfering in UK affairs?
No, I don't think so, because of course we have to respect the outcome of the referendum. That's the reason why we have been, while considering Brexit, a catastrophic mistake. No. We respect it while regretting the referendum. But of course, we have also to respect those European citizens, UK and European citizens, that are saying clearly and loudly that they want to remain. We represent also them, so we cannot be biased. And also because, yes, there has been a referendum and we have negotiated a withdrawal agreement, but today is Wednesday, the day of leaving was supposed to be Friday, and still there is no agreement on the deal. So clearly something's going wrong. I think we cannot. So something's going wrong. But why? But why was going wrong?
Okay.
Because the concrete implication of Brexit that were clearly kept hidden in the campaign of the referendum now are becoming clear. So one thing is abstract to say you want to remain or to leave, but when you understand what are the consequences, that's why I think there is a shift of opinion, and why when you have to choose in concrete, but what is the plan? What is the plan for leaving the Union? What is the plan?
And
then citizens are rightly concerned, but you know
the majority now is to leave on WTO terms.
Oh yeah, that's I don't think so.
And it's now
that's what you think. That what you think, but it is not interested of the United Kingdom, and I don't think it is a broad majority in the Parliament. The UK Parliament just voted they don't want no deal because they know that no deal would be a mistake.
Science is very useful at times. Being analytical is quite helpful, and taking emotion.
I don't think you are being analytical.
If you take emotion out of it,
no, I have no emotion.
Leaving with no deal is now the most popular by far of all the options in the United Kingdom, commanding a big majority, and that's where we are. That's where
I cannot compete on this level of propaganda. But
well, you see, this is it. You guys seem to think that Brexit's a terrible mistake and that somehow we're going to change our minds. We are not.
All the employees' organization, all the worker organization, or those to say, look at the consequences of the UK economy, look at the consequences of cities. They are crazy.
Our growth is double the Eurozone. Our employment is the highest it's ever been. The UK economy...
You are currently member of the European Union and the single market.
Since the Brexit vote,
I remind you
despite all the warnings we were given, we were told if we voted to leave,
we are doing a bit of surreal discussion.
And we're happy.
You were saying that there's more appetite for just a no deal, leave without a deal. But we are seeing members of like Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, just moving closer to supporting Theresa May's deal because there seems to be fear of leaving without a deal. It's the opposite of what you were saying.
Jacob would like to leave without a deal. That's his preferred choice. But the reason Jacob Rees-Mogg is moving his position is he genuinely fears, that this issue is so divisive within the Conservative Party that it could split the Conservative Party. And I think what you're seeing...
Are you saying this is all about party politics then?
I'm afraid to a very large extent it is, yes. And that's the problem. The people have had their say and our political system is simply not implementing it.
But still, they could be supporting Theresa May. Okay, I'd like to know what you would like to come out of tonight. What is the most reasonable...
I think finally it's very important that the UK Parliament is taking back control and is deciding what are the positive options, not only what they don't want. So you're happy that the MPs took control of this? I think it's a very positive element because we have seen a deal negotiated and then it is not being able to pass through the Parliament. So it was clear there was big mistakes by the government. So now the Parliament is thinking about what is the future. And I think the fact that among those options, there are options that foresee a closer relationship between the United Kingdom and Europe. This is good, because this is good for both economies, and for the future. It is strategic choices for the destiny of the United Kingdom. And those who thought that the United Kingdom could just be a free rider of a globalized world, they don't know how really we are embedded in a system of rules which are also strong safeguards for citizens, for rights, for worker rights, for environmental rights, but are also a boost for our economy. So we are integrated. This is a history. We cannot change that.
We want democracy.
So the fact that among those options, majority of options are options which foresee a closer relationship, or also that foresee to give back the word to the people, I think is a sign of wisdom. Is a sign of wisdom of the UK Parliament.
A quick reply for you, Nigel, because...
being debated. 7 remain and 1 leave. And that sums up the gap between our Parliament and the people.
After more than 2.5 years of fierce campaigning from both sides, MEPs here have voted in favor of a controversial new copyright law aimed at holding big tech giants like Google and Facebook responsible for copyrighted material uploaded to their sites. So essentially, it's the platforms that will now be responsible. And it hasn't been an easy ride, but today the proposal's chief, Axel Voss, he looked happy and relieved as MEPs backed his proposal 348 to 274, ending years of activism which pitted musicians, film directors, publishers and more against internet heavyweights like YouTube and Amazon. It's been a very emotive topic indeed, and this continued until the very last moment. Now, those in favor say it's a huge step forward, while those against, they're calling it a, quote, dark day for internet freedom. Now, that proposal still has to be approved by all member states, but for now, the EU has finally put its foot down.
Wollen wir einen Rechtsrahmen für das Internet hier schaffen, sodass auch Eigentümer im Grunde nicht bestohlen werden? Das ist die große Frage, mit der wir uns hier heute auseinandersetzen. Wenn wir uns mal Artikel 13 angucken, da wird vielfach versäumt, mal darauf hinzuweisen, dass wir eine Definition geschaffen haben, wo wir nur die Plattformen auch davon unter Artikel 13 fallen lassen, die genau wissen, dass sie das Eigentum anderer benutzen und hiermit viel Geld machen.
All right, and joining us for this panel to unpick this controversial new law is Dominic Kiss, a Save the Internet campaigner. And we also have John Phelan from the International Federation of Music Publishers. All right, it has been really an emotive, divisive topic, and campaigns have been going on until the last moment. All right, this dark day for internet freedom, I'll start with you, Dominic. Dark day for internet freedom. But it seems to be this is aimed at protecting content creators. Why is it a dark day for internet freedom?
Well, it should be protecting the content creators, but actually it doesn't really do. We have Article 12, which people were already filing lawsuits in Germany, and they won against the big publishing companies. And that's one thing of the entire directive which doesn't really work out that good, because the people, the big publishers, they are trying to get back the money. They have to pay the content creators in Germany.
You are for protecting content creators.
Yeah, we all stand for protecting the content creators. We do not want to endanger them in any way, and we do not want to decline them to get money.
And sorry, I've seen the hashtag today, hashtag Save the Internet, all over Twitter. Yeah. Save the Internet from what exactly?
Well, from upload filters, from Article 13. We do not want any upload filters on the Internet, because that would definitely endanger the Internet, how we know, how it is right now. And that's one thing we don't want to have.
All right, you represent, Jonathan, content creators as well, copyrighted content creators, but there is a big difference in the opinion that you hold. You're very happy today.
Well, today's a first step. It's really just a clarification of the liability of these services under the normal 2001 existing rules of copyright. I think it's really important to remember that what this copyright directive does, it doesn't change what copyright is. It changes who must obey existing copyright laws, and that's fundamentally important, because there's been a lot of scaremongering. Honestly, I've never seen a campaign like it in terms of banning memes, banning GIFs.
Is it a scare campaign though? Because when you have a blanket, when you have algorithms or just a blanket filter, how are they supposed to know what is satire, what is legitimate?
There is no blanket filter. It's content recognition technology, which helps these services to aggregate and to generate the ad revenue, is the very same thing which can recognize content which is copyright protected. I think the best metaphor...
This is not foolproof though, isn't it?
But it's nothing to do with anything to do with users' privacy, it's nothing to do with expression and so on and so on. Content recognition technology, it must be remembered, is in place today
jump in
on the
you
internet.
Seem to be disagreeing.
And Article 13 clarifies that that technology should be simply used more fairly. Simple as that. Nothing new, just more fair.
Okay. Do you agree? And you seem to be disagreeing.
Well, I do disagree with that, because those filter technologies, as you just call them, they are not foolproof, and they will never be, because we have Content ID from which YouTube and Google is using, and they invested millions of dollars to get to this point. And this machine already does a lot of mistakes. We have a few videos where the meowing of a cat was recognized as a song and was monetized by another company. We have a German creator who got his entire video demonetized and monetized to another suspicious company, and that creator was creating his own music.
How does it affect a content creator, for example? How would someone who's creating on YouTube and making money from YouTube, you're saying it affects their livelihood, the way they make money?
Well, yes. It does affect them that small YouTubers who want to become big YouTube stars to have like a possibility to earn money from this, to make a living out of their YouTube things. They won't be able to become bigger because of those upload filters, because if they use anything that might be resembling a copyright infringement, they will instantly get a copyright strike.
So don't you think this is like the David and Goliath, the big copyrighted musicians against little ones who just want to get their name out there?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because the value gap, which is the problem behind which Article 13 seeks to solve, affects every single musician you've ever heard of. It affects legacy artists who've been around for 40 years, who are on YouTube or similar services. It affects the very new artists, whether it's a Finnish jazz musician or a Slovakian folk musician. Everybody is affected by the value gap. All Article 13 seeks to do is to ensure that these services use the existing technologies, which they know very, very well, to correct a valuation problem. Let me be clear, it's not in the music industry's interest to block or to filter content, nor is it in Google's interest to block and filter content, because they earn enormous profit off music. What this article does is clarify that Google and similar services have to observe existing laws to pay more fairly.
Let us get the view of someone who does create content. His name is Mike Hash. He is from Romania, and he has about 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. Mike, good of you to join us. Okay, what will this change for you? This new directive, this copyright directive that was passed here, how will it change your life?
Well, not just my life, but I think the life of all creators across Europe. Of course, this being a directive, we need to wait and see how each individual country implements this in their particular territory. But overall, it will be something that will make YouTubers suffer, and not only YouTubers and content creators, but users as well. Because this is a big industry. It's a multi-million-dollar industry that risks going down the drain.
How will it impact you? Do you use copyrighted material? I mean, remix, because I believe that YouTube does allow that. So what is it? What is the problem in concrete terms? How does it stop you from creating content?
So one of the shows I create is based on reviewing videos from YouTube or content, news, and so forth. So in order for me to comment on those particular events or videos, I need to show them, obviously. And this normally is fair use, because I'm not re-uploading the whole video. I'm just commenting on it or making satire or something like this. And with Article 13, this may be impossible to do in the future, because if there's a robot in place that actually checks all the content on YouTube, that algorithm does not know that I am doing a commentary. It only knows that I have a frame or a picture or a piece of a song that doesn't belong to me, and will terminate my video. So yeah.
So Mike, what are you going to do now? What do you think should be done?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it's very, very hard to say. My feeling is that most of the politicians who actually voted for this, I don't think they really know what they voted for, or maybe they don't know the whole implications that this might have. So what I tried to do until this point is contact the MEPs from my country, or speak with other MEPs from other countries. I've been to Brussels and to the European Parliament in Strasbourg sometimes in order to do this, and we managed to impress, let's say, some of them.
You're basically trying to get your voice and your opinion out. Mike Hash, thank you for joining us there. Just a very quick reaction, because you share the same opinion as him. A reaction from you. Here's a guy who will be affected by this. you're talking about protecting content creators.
Absolutely.
Not happy.
We are the content creation industry. We want to support that. Mike just referred already there to robots, to algorithms. I mean, this is not true. These technologies are already in place, and actually if Mike reads Article 13.5, there's protections for review, parody, pastiche already in there. So actually it's an advance for users like Mike. What this also does, it advances the musicians who are not helped at the moment by the big services.
Okay, can you unpick that, why you were laughing and not really believing that?
Yeah, because you just said that those things are already in place, and that memes, for example, those funny pictures are explicit, are not affected by this.
Okay, you have 10 seconds to finish your point.
Yeah, but as long as
memes are not relevant to this directive.
Yeah, but as long as but as long as a filter doesn't recognize what's humor, it won't work out because.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping is in Paris today, and earlier he met with Angela Merkel, Emmanuel Macron, and Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. The red carpet was rolled out for Xi, but there was caution as well as pageantry from EU leaders. Their message was that Europe is ready to do business with China, but they called for a more level playing field and for Chinese markets to open themselves up to European goods. Let's take a listen.
Nous souhaitons pouvoir avancer sur la construction d'un multilatéralisme rénové. Alors nous avons des divergences. Évidemment, l'exercice de la puissance dans l'histoire de l'humanité ne va pas sans rivalité. Nul d'entre nous n'est naïf, mais nous respectons la Chine et nous sommes déterminés au dialogue et à la coopération. Et nous entendons naturellement de nos grands partenaires qu'ils respectent aussi l'unité de l'Union européenne comme les valeurs qu'elle porte pour elle-même et dans le monde.
合作是主要潮流，就是有不同的分歧，或者说有一些竞争，可能也是一些良性竞争。合作大于竞争，我们应该增加正能量。我们是在并肩的前行，同舟共济。但是我们不要呢，由于猜疑总要提防身后。
Je voudrais que s'instaure entre la Chine et l'Union européenne une réciprocité mieux articulée qu'elle ne l'est à l'heure où nous sommes, parce qu'il faudra que les entreprises européennes trouvent le même degré d'ouverture pour ce qui est de l'accès au marché chinois que les entreprises chinoises trouvent en Europe, un degré d'ouverture totale.
I'll start with you, Alfred. Today, do you want a closer relationship with China? You're talking about trade of some, how many trillion, 5 trillion trading dollars there on this Belt and Road Initiative that they want to do, infrastructure, investing in infrastructure in Europe. Aren't you worried that this is like a Trojan horse in the EU?
Well, actually, Malta is already a member of the Belt and Road Initiative. Italy became just 3, 4, 5 days back, and I think it's a very good idea. It has got to be looked upon in a rational way, in an objective way, as an instrument by which Europe or European countries can cooperate with China.
But what is your gauge? Is it just about trade then? Is that your gauge?
You start with trade. Then you move out of that into investment, and you move out of that into cultural relations. In my country, we've had quite long, close relations with China. The Maltese Prime Minister back in '71 went there before actually Nixon did.
Yeah.
So all over these years, we've had quite a good relationship with them. So it was always
we understand
positive.
the trade. We understand the trade, but Anna, I'd like to bring you into this because you clearly have a more cautious view on how to deal with China.
Yes, I mean
trade is important.
I'm all for trade and trade in with level playing field, so of course with reciprocity. I think that's the message that Macron and others were passing. But let's not be naive, as it was actually also said by Macron. China is, as a power with strategic aims, has hegemonic purposes. And of course, they are using our own weaknesses, because it was, for instance, due to the austerity policies that China came and bought on the cheap anything that was relevant economically, industrially in many of our member states, including in my country, Portugal. today it's the Chinese Communist Party that controls either the power production, either the network for power distribution, and this was done with the blessing of the Troika. So Europe has some responsibilities at the time of when it was extremely naive. Now it's trying to recover with the screening of foreign direct investment, namely by China. But there is another very important question. So I'm all for indeed trade with reciprocity, but we should also not neglect the fact that China is not a democratic power. And you know, when you have artificial intelligence now already being implied in China to give scores to citizens to determine if they have the right to have a certain loan from banks or to access certain university, you are into a Orwellian world that you cannot.
So, Alfred,
I stay back from making value judgments about other nations. We're not in the business of making value judgments about other nations. We're in the business of cooperating like peoples do. And on that basis, I think we have to consider China on a standalone basis and not put in ideas that basically are not European-centered. What's happening at the moment is that, for instance, the US is making lots of pressure on the Europeans not to consider G5 from China sources, because they say this is going to give China this espionage hold on Europe. I mean, that's something to consider, but not something to take so seriously, after all, because who's been spying on the German Chancellor? Not the Chinese, the Americans.
Okay, not putting value judgment. Is that a valid point?
Well, I've been to the Huawei in Beijing with the mission of the European Parliament 2 or 3 years ago. And we asked questions, and we were told that indeed Huawei is having to collect and store in China every data they collect anywhere in the world. So we're dealing with a power that is not democratic. Okay, I am in the first line to criticize the US for all the spying and so on. But at least in the US, it's you have the US now under the spell of Trump, but still it's a democratic society. You have mechanisms of redress. You can go to courts and expect some kind of a democratic
because this voice is quite strong in the EU. So how would you?
What Anna's saying is that the Chinese do what Google does. And basically the problem is, okay, Google is doing it. What's the control of Google? Here in Europe, we're doing something at least about it. But the US, that doesn't exist. So frankly, I mean, just trying to put the devil on the Chinese floor and saying, okay, we're the saints here.
But you can't take Google to court in the US or in Europe.
You have to have legal grounds to do that.
But in China, it's much more complicated, and you don't have a system of independent courts. And this cannot be overlooked when you're talking about critical infrastructure, such as ports, for instance, that now the Chinese already control in the framework of this Road and Belt Initiative, or actually the 5G thing. It's something which is going to give them, indeed, a tool to actually put our independence and our European security. It's not national security.
Well, Huawei in the UK, for instance, has developed a project by which they developed the software in relationship with the British security services. And the British security services have said, okay, there's no problem with G5 in the UK.
Bad news for Europe's petrol heads. All new cars sold in the EU are to be fitted with devices to stop drivers breaking the speed limit. Or at least that's the Commission's plan. From 2022, drivers who try to break speed limits will see their vehicles automatically slowed. Although the devices can be disabled, safety campaigners are welcoming the move. It's now up to the Parliament to decide whether it wants to give the proposals the green light. And if you're thinking Brexit Britain won't be affected, think again. The new system will also apply in the UK.
That was the week that was. Join us again next week. We will be back in our studios in Brussels starting at 6 p.m. CET on Monday, only here on Euronews.